Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This is where we take those really powerful concepts from the main metabolic revolution show, the bioenergetic framework,
Mm,
and we just dedicate the time to really peel back the layers and get into the why behind it all.
exactly. We know the listeners who tune in for this are looking for more than just a quick summary. They want the biochemistry, right? They want to see the connections and the actual science behind it.
Yeah.
We view the body through this lens of cellular energy production, and today, that lens is focused squarely on a topic that affects, I mean, millions of lives, and is just steeped in what I would call normalized suffering, PMS.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about the cultural narrative here. Millions of women for generations have been conditioned to believe that this debilitating fatigue, severe mood swings that can derail relationships.
Right.
The bloating, the breast tenderness, the crushing cramps, that all of this is just the price of being female.
It's just normal.
Yeah, you get handed some Midol, maybe a heating pad, and you're told to just suck it up until menopause.
And that societal normalization,
Mm-hmm.
that is the most dangerous trap. Because if we accept that narrative, that PMS is just hormones behaving badly,
Right.
then we're just treating the smoke. We're not even looking for the fire. The underlying metabolic crisis just keeps burning.
So our thesis today, and it is pretty provocative, is that severe, predictable, or even just consistently moderate PMS is not a normal physiological burden.
Not at all.
It's not something you just have to endure. It is a clear, screaming symptom of an underlying metabolic dysfunction. And based on these principles of bioenergetics, it is completely preventable.
Our mission today in this deep dive is to expose what we call the estrogen trap.
Mm-hmm.
We have to stop looking at PMS as this isolated hormonal failure.
Okay.
It is, at its root, an energy problem. The hormones, like estrogen and progesterone, they aren't the villains or the heroes here. They're just the downstream messengers. They're the readout telling us about the energy status inside the cell.
So let's ground this in the framework we use here at Biospark Health. When we talk about bioenergetics, we're always emphasizing that health is driven by the cell's ability to produce energy.
Right, through aerobic respiration, which generates CO2.
So what happens when that system is running perfectly?
When it's running perfectly, the body is in a state of high energy, safety, and abundance. Everything from your neurotransmitters to your thyroid conversion, it's all seamless.
Okay.
But when that energy production drops, maybe due to nutrient depletion, toxic fats, overwhelming stress, the entire system shifts into emergency survival mode. And that shift is reflected instantly in your hormones.
To bring this out of the abstract, let's look at a case study someone will call Rebecca. She was 38, and her story is just textbook. It mirrors what so many of our listeners go through.
Rebecca's suffering was like clockwork. Her cycle was broken into these predictable phases of just increasing distress. Days 21 to 23 were marked by this intense, immediate irritability.
Snapping at her family, short-fused.
Exactly. And she described these uncontrollable, desperate cravings for sugar and refined carbs, which right away, that signals a major problem with blood sugar stability.
And then it gets worse.
Oh.
Days 24 to 26, this was the classic emotional meltdown.
Mhm.
She'd find herself crying uncontrollably, picking fights with her partner over literally nothing, and the physical discomfort. The bloating was so bad, she said she genuinely felt like she looked several months pregnant.
And then the final 2 days before her period, days 27 and 28, that was just a pure physical shutdown.
Yeah.
We're talking debilitating cramps, migraines, and an exhaustion that, no amount of sleep could even touch. Then, a couple of days into her period, poof, she was back to normal, just waiting for the cycle to start all over again.
So she goes to her gynecologist for help, and what's the standard solution she's offered?
The standard playbook, hormonal birth control will regulate your hormones.
A magic bullet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this is where the system completely fails the patient. Because birth control, whether it's the pill or a hormonal IUD, it doesn't regulate anything. It suppresses the entire conversation
Right.
between the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the ovaries, the HPO axis. It just forces the system into hibernation.
And for Rebecca, that meant weight gain, zero libido, this bone-deep fatigue, and depression. She basically became a low-energy, flat version of herself.
Because her natural metabolic system was being throttled.
So when she finally sought a functional workup, the metabolic markers, they told the real story. Her morning basal body temperature, which is our best, most accessible readout of metabolic rate,
Yes.
it was shockingly low. It was down to 96.4 degrees Fahrenheit.
And that is such a critical marker.
Yeah.
96.4 tells us the cellular engine is barely sputtering. It's not idling, it's trying to shut down.
Wow.
And hormonally, the Picture was a catastrophe. Her protective progesterone was barely measurable, while her tissue estrogen levels were through the roof. It was this perfect storm of estrogen dominance with zero metabolic protection.
Okay, so this brings us to the core reframing that comes from the bioenergetic model, specifically the work of Ray Peat. We're all taught that estrogen is this, beautiful female fertility hormone.
Right.
But Pete challenged that. He saw estrogen primarily as a stress hormone.
And this shift in perspective is just radical. It's everything. Because it suddenly allows us to understand all those symptoms we just listed. We're not saying estrogen has no role in fertility, obviously.
Of course not.
But when you look at its actions on the body vasoconstriction, increasing cortisol, lowering immunity, increasing inflammation, these are all characteristics of a survival hormone.
Can you break that down a bit? Why do those things like vasoconstriction make it a stress hormone?
Sure. So a key action of estrogen, especially when it's not balanced by progesterone, is to tighten blood vessels. That's vasoconstriction. In a stress response, that's crucial. It shunts blood away from non-essential organs to save resources. The chronic vasoconstriction means you're getting less oxygen and fewer nutrients to your tissues, which immediately lowers your metabolic rate. It's why Rebecca had those cold hands and feet.
And the inflammation part.
Estrogen promotes inflammatory pathways. A sustained state of inflammation is a sustained state of stress, so it makes sense that it rises when metabolism drops. In a high-energy state, progesterone keeps it all in a healthy, beneficial balance.
But when energy production plummets, when the body perceives any kind of scarcity,
the primary biological drive becomes survival, not reproduction. Progesterone, the hormone of safety and abundance, it just crashes because it's metabolically expensive to make.
And the body ramps up the stress hormones instead.
Cortisol, and relative to progesterone, estrogen. It's the body's wisdom screaming, this is not the time to create a new life. The symptoms of PMS are just the physical and emotional readout of that deep metabolic wrongness.
So a woman suffering from severe PMS, her body is basically waving a giant metabolic red flag. It's an urgent warning.
It's the canary in the coal mine. And the most insidious part is that this excess estrogen actively suppresses the very metabolism you need to fix the problem. That's the heart of the estrogen trap.
Okay, so let's dedicate this next segment to breaking down exactly how that happens. This is segment 2, the estrogen trap for destructive metabolic effects.
As we said, you should see estrogen and progesterone as a seesaw. Progesterone is anti-stress, protective, pro-metabolic. Estrogen, in excess, is the opposite. And in estrogen dominance, that seesaw is just completely broken.
Let's start with effect 1, which is maybe the most devastating, the huge hit to the thyroid.
Yes, the master regulator. Excess estrogen sabotages thyroid function, but not by reducing T4 production, which is what most people think. It works by reducing the availability of the active hormone, T3.
How does it do that?
The mechanism involves something called thyroid-binding proteins, or TBPs. When estrogen is high, it tells the liver to produce more of these TBPs.
But TBPs are like, what, tiny clamps or something?
They're exactly like binding taxis. They latch onto the free T3, which is the active hormone that needs to get inside your cells to turn on your metabolism.
Ah.
So when these TBPs are elevated by estrogen, they effectively lock up a huge chunk of that active T3, making it totally unavailable for your cells to use.
Which means a woman could have a blood test that shows totally normal T3 levels.
Exactly.
But because the estrogen is high, the functional amount of T3 actually doing its job is dramatically low.
Precisely. The blood test looks fine, but the cells are starving. And this creates a devastating vicious cycle.
How so?
Lower T3 availability means a lower metabolic rate, a colder body, a lower energy state. And we know that a low energy state is the perfect environment for more estrogen dominance. Low thyroid fuels estrogen dominance, and estrogen dominance suppresses the thyroid. It's a self-perpetuating metabolic sinkhole.
And that explains all those classic hypothyroid symptoms we see in PMS, the cold hands and feet, constipation, hair thinning, that crushing fatigue, even when the TSH looks normal.
Absolutely. The second major effect, which causes so much physical misery, is inflammation and water retention.
This is the bloating, the puffiness that makes women feel awful and think they've gained 5 pounds of fat in a week.
And it's not fat, it's fluid retention.
Yeah.
It's driven by signaling. Estrogen basically instructs the cells to hold on to sodium and water.
Okay.
This increases swelling in the tissues. When estrogen is high and unopposed, the body can hold on to a significant amount of fluid. 4 or 5 pounds is not uncommon at all. This is what drives the breast tenderness, the abdominal swelling, the rings feeling tight on your fingers.
And this is completely different from progesterone's effect.
The complete opposite. Progesterone is a natural, gentle diuretic and anti-inflammatory. It counters that sodium-retaining effect of estrogen.
So it helps you shed the excess fluid?
Yes. When that protective progesterone is gone, you're just left swimming in estrogen-driven water retention and inflammation. And that's where the physical pain of PMS comes from.
Okay, effect number 3 really hones in on the cravings and the mood swings. Disrupted glucose metabolism.
High estrogen levels actively promote insulin resistance. It's one of its main stress mechanisms. It just interferes with the signaling pathways that let insulin efficiently get glucose into the cells for fuel.
So even if a woman is eating enough carbs, the high estrogen is like a biochemical roadblock stopping the cells from using that fuel.
That's right. The cells are effectively starving, and the body's alarm system goes off, demanding fast, immediate fuel, sugar, refined carbs.
And that's where those uncontrollable cravings come from.
Exactly. It is not a moral failing. It's not a lack of willpower. It's a desperate biochemical need driven by estrogenic interference. The cells are starved of their best fuel source.
And finally, effect number 4, which really challenges a major medical belief. Serotonin overload. We're taught serotonin is the happy hormone, but high estrogen increases it, and that often leads to anxiety and depression.
Yes, Ray Peat was very clear that excess serotonin, especially when it comes from the gut, acts as a primary stress mediator.
Yeah.
It's profoundly inflammatory.
So the opposite of a happy molecule.
The complete opposite. In excess, it's a vasoconstrictor. It increases fibrosis. It's a stress signal.
And why is the gut connection so important here?
Because a huge portion of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut lining. When you have bacterial overgrowth and gut inflammation, what we call endotoxin, the body just pumps out large amounts of inflammatory serotonin. Estrogen not only makes this worse, but it also makes the brain more sensitive to it.
Which explains why women in that luteal phase feel so disproportionately anxious and irritable.
Exactly. The root cause is metabolic stress and inflammation, amplified by high estrogen. And this has a huge implication for treatment. If you use SSRIs, you're manipulating a symptom, but you're not touching the root cause.
The high estrogen, the gut inflammation.
Right. The fundamental energy deficit is still there, which is why for many women, those drugs just don't work very well, or they make things worse.
Wow. That paints a really bleak picture of estrogen as a metabolic saboteur.
Yeah.
Let's quickly contrast that with the hero of the story, progesterone.
Progesterone is the metabolic champion. It directly counteracts every single one of those destructive effects. It increases thyroid sensitivity, so your T3 works better. It's a natural diuretic. It stabilizes blood sugar. And critically, it has these amazing anti-anxiety neuroprotective effects. It calms the nervous system. It promotes deep sleep.
And the ultimate proof of this is a healthy pregnancy.
Pregnancy is the highest progesterone state a woman will ever experience. And what's the metabolic result? It's a state of hypermetabolism.
Right.
The body is warm, the temperature soars, the metabolic rate increases by up to 20%. The woman is producing tons of CO2, which is a sign of efficient energy production, and you get that pregnancy glow.
That is the body thriving,
Yeah.
that warmth, that energy. That's the goal. That's what our bodies are capable of when progesterone is in charge.
But the reality is that our modern environment is basically engineered to destroy progesterone and drive estrogen dominance.
Okay, so we have to get into the drivers. Why is this hormonal chaos so rampant now? Let's move into segment 3 and break down the 5 major factors that are tilting that seesaw against progesterone.
Driver number 1, and this is something everyone needs to address immediately, is polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs.
The seed oils.
The seed oils. We've talked about how they suppress the thyroid, but their hormonal impact is just as destructive.
So we're talking about soybean, corn, canola, grapeseed, sunflower, safflower. The oils that are literally everywhere in processed foods and restaurants. How do they specifically drive estrogen dominance?
The mechanism is chemical. PUFAs are incredibly unstable. They go rancid very easily, which drives massive oxidative stress in your tissues. And this oxidative stress, especially in your fat tissue, drastically increases the activity of an enzyme called aromatase.
And aromatase is the enzyme that does the conversion.
Exactly. Aromatase converts your androgens, like testosterone, into estrogen. So when your fat cells are saturated with these rancid, oxidized PUFAs, you're literally flipping on the estrogen conversion switch.
So every meal cooked in these oils, every packaged snack is not just suppressing your metabolism, it's actively fueling the estrogen dominance cycle.
It's a direct biochemical driver.
Yeah.
And the scariest part is their persistence. These fats store in your tissues for years, so eliminating them today is just the first step in a long detox process.
Wow. Okay, moving to driver number 2. Low thyroid function and poor estrogen clearance. This closes that vicious cycle loop.
Yes, the liver is your body's central detox facility. It
Mm-hmm.
has to break down hormones and get them ready for excretion. But this whole process is incredibly energy intensive. It requires two non-negotiable things:
Which are?
adequate active thyroid hormone, T3, to run the enzymes, and sufficient liver glycogen, which is stored glucose.
So any woman who is chronically restricting calories or specifically restricting carbs is basically guaranteeing her liver will fail at this job.
Absolutely guaranteed. When T3 is low, or when liver glycogen is depleted from a low-carb diet, the liver just doesn't have the fuel to do its job. So the estrogen doesn't get metabolized. It just builds up and recirculates, making the dominance even worse.
This is exactly why so many women on strict low-carb diets like keto get terrible PMS or even lose their periods altogether.
They've inadvertently starved the liver of the glucose it desperately needs to manage their hormones. They're trying to fix one problem, but they're sabotaging the foundation of their hormonal health.
Such a critical point. Driver number 3 is the modern health epidemic: chronic stress and pregnenolone steal.
This is where lifestyle and biochemistry collide. Progesterone and cortisol, the main stress hormone, they share the exact same grandparent molecule, pregnenolone. They are in constant competition for it.
And when the body is under stress, there's no contest.
Cortisol wins every single time. Survival over fertility, if you're under any kind of threat, metabolic, physical, emotional way, the body has to make life-saving cortisol. So it literally steals the pregnenolone that should have become protective progesterone.
And as a listener, I might think, I'm not that stressed. But what counts as a stressor in this framework is so much broader than just a bad day at work.
It's much broader, and this is the heartbreaking part. The stressors that drive this pregnenolone steal are often disguised as healthy behaviors.
Like what?
Chronic calorie restriction, low-carb diets, intense exercise like running or HIIT, fasting, sleep deprivation, and critically chronic low-grade inflammation from the gut endotoxin.
So the dedicated listener who's up at 5 a.m. for an hour of intense cardio on an empty stomach and then restricts calories all day.
She is metabolically guaranteeing that her body stays in survival mode. She's prioritizing cortisol and tanking her progesterone, all in the name of health. The severe PMS she gets is the direct result.
Okay, driver number 4 ties right back to the gut: endotoxin and bacterial overgrowth.
The gut hormone axis, this is non-negotiable. When you have bacterial overgrowth, these bacteria die and release a part of their cell wall called lipopolysaccharide, or LPS. That's endotoxin.
And LPS is profoundly inflammatory.
It's the most potent inflammatory trigger we know of. When it gets into the bloodstream, it causes systemic inflammation, it burdens the liver, and crucially, it directly activates the aromatase enzyme, especially in fat tissue.
Wait, so the bacteria in your gut are actively telling your body to make more estrogen?
That's exactly what the inflammatory signal from endotoxin does. More endotoxin equals more inflammation, equals more estrogen. So fixing the gut is an absolute must.
And that's why a simple tool like the raw carrot salad is so foundational in this whole approach.
It's a direct mechanism to bind that endotoxin and excess estrogen right there in the intestine. It's a simple, elegant solution.
Okay, finally, driver number 5, which many women start using to solve the problem: hormonal birth control. We have to be clear about the metabolic costs.
Right. When Rebecca was put on birth control, the underlying problem wasn't fixed, it was just masked. The pill shuts down the HPO axis, which prevents ovulation.
And no ovulation means no corpus luteum, which means no natural progesterone.
Correct. So you get zero of the protective, anti-stress, pro-metabolic effects of your own progesterone. The synthetic progestins in birth control do not provide that same protection.
And the research backs this up, right? The systemic suppression.
It's very clear. Studies show women on birth control have chronically lower thyroid hormone levels, lower basal body temps, higher inflammatory markers, and higher rates of depression and anxiety. It's a forced state of metabolic defense.
Wow.
And the real tragedy is that when women quit, the years of underlying metabolic dysfunction that was never addressed comes roaring back, and often their cycles are even worse than before.
This is such a powerful breakdown of the problem. Estrogen dominance driven by PUFAs, low thyroid, stress, endotoxin, and hormonal suppression. So now let's shift into the action plan. This is segment 4. The 5-step protocol for metabolic restoration.
This is the blueprint for shifting the body out of defense mode and into thriving mode.
And step 1, the non-negotiable foundation: support thyroid function.
That's right. If the engine isn't running, Nothing else sticks. And that means prioritizing adequate, high-quality carbohydrate intake. We recommend targeting around 175 to 200 grams of carbs daily for most active women.
Why that number specifically? Why is it so critical?
Because your liver needs a full tank of glycogen-stored glucose to efficiently convert the inactive T4 thyroid hormone into the active T3. Restrict carbs, you empty that tank, T4 conversion stalls, and your metabolism drops.
And adequate overall calories, of course. No more chronic restriction.
Absolutely. And then there are specific nutrients that are cofactors for this whole process.
Right.
Selenium, zinc, vitamin A, and iron are all critical for robust thyroid function. You need them in bioavailable forms.
And the simple way to track if this is working is?
Your basal body temperature.
Oh, here?
Your BBT. This is your immediate feedback loop. You want to see that morning temperature get up to 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit and stay there.
And Rebecca started at 96.4. What was her shift just from eating enough?
Within 3 weeks of just focusing on adequate calories and reintroducing carbs intelligently, her temperature started moving.
Nice.
It rose to 97.8. That rise was the body's first signal that the state of emergency was starting to lift.
Okay, step 2 is the one with the really rapid impact. Eliminate polyunsaturated fats, PUFAs.
This has to be immediate and permanent. Remove all the seed oils, soybean, corn, canola from your kitchen. You have to become a label detective. You're stopping the immediate source of oxidative stress that's activating that aromatase enzyme.
And the best replacement fats.
Stable saturated fats, high-quality butter, coconut oil, ghee, tallow. Olive oil is okay in moderation, but not for high-heat cooking.
And the timeline for improvement here can be pretty fast, right?
It is. Because you're immediately reducing that oxidative load, many women see a noticeable reduction in PMS symptoms, especially breast tenderness and bloating, within just 4 to 6 weeks. It's a huge win.
Step 3, fix your gut and reduce endotoxin.
Yes, and the foundational tool here is the daily raw carrot salad protocol. It's so simple, but it's highly effective.
Walk us through the ingredients and the mechanism again.
It's 1 medium carrot, shredded lengthwise, mixed with a teaspoon of coconut oil, which is antimicrobial, a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, which creates a hostile environment for bad bacteria, and a pinch of salt. The key is the indigestible fiber in the carrot.
And how does that fiber work?
It physically sweeps the gut, but more importantly, this specific fiber binds very strongly to excess estrogen and to that inflammatory endotoxin.
Okay.
Plus, your liver dumps metabolized estrogen into your gut via bile. The carrot fiber binds to that bile, ensuring the estrogen and endotoxin are actually eliminated in your stool instead of getting reabsorbed.
So it's a double detox pathway. It stops the liver's hard work from being undone.
Exactly. And to support that, you want to eat well-cooked vegetables, prioritize gelatin and bone broth to heal the gut lining, and space your meals 3 to 4 hours apart to activate the gut's natural cleaning wave, the MMC.
Okay, on to step 4. Support natural progesterone production.
If progesterone is the antidote, we have to give the body the raw materials to make it. Progesterone is synthesized from cholesterol.
So we need to eat foods that support that.
Yes. Whole, nutrient-dense foods. Egg yolks are fantastic, rich in cholesterol and fat-soluble vitamins. Full-fat dairy, if you tolerate it. Magnesium-rich foods. And adequate saturated fats from butter and coconut oil.
I have to ask the question that I know the listener is thinking. If progesterone is the key, why go through all these other steps? Why not just jump straight to supplementing with bioidentical progesterone? It seems so much faster.
That's a crucial question. The reason we focus on the metabolic protocol first is that if your body is still riddled with chronic stressors, high endotoxin, low thyroid, PUFA saturation, the progesterone you supplement will just be rapidly metabolized or poorly utilized.
So you're pouring water into a leaky bucket.
You are pouring water into a very leaky bucket. You have to fix the leaks first. Support the thyroid, get rid of the PUFAs. Then, if you still need it, supplementation becomes infinitely more effective.
That makes perfect sense. What about the lifestyle pieces to counter pregnenolone steal?
Deep restorative sleep is non-negotiable. Progesterone production peaks overnight. And consistent stress management to keep cortisol low. And again, eating enough. The body will not make progesterone if it thinks it's starving.
And a quick, critical point on timing if you do supplement.
Yes. It must be timed to the luteal phase, only days 14 through 28 of the cycle. Taking it in the first half of your cycle can suppress your body's natural signaling.
Okay, finally, step 5. Reduce overall stress load. This means dismantling some of those healthy biohacks.
We have to actively minimize the physical stressors. That means eliminating intense, prolonged exercise in the early stages. No chronic calorie restriction, no carb restriction, no fasting. Not until the BBT is stable and symptoms are gone.
And the emotional environment is just as important.
Absolutely. We have to optimize our circadian rhythm. Get morning sunlight within 30 minutes of waking. It's a powerful metabolic signal. Cultivate community and connection. And, this is so overlooked, actively seek joy and pleasure. Progesterone elevates in states of safety and abundance.
So let's circle back to Rebecca's timeline and connect these 5 steps to her actual transformation.
Right. She started at 96.4, suffering severely. In month 1, she did the simple stuff. Cut seed oils, ate a good breakfast, started the carrot salad. Her temp went up to 97.2. She felt a little less inflammation, but the emotional PMS was still pretty bad. You can't undo years of buildup in 4 weeks.
She was still in a deep metabolic hole.
Exactly. Month 2 is when we got serious about nutrition. She'd been under-eating at 1,400 calories. We aggressively increased her intake to 2,200, focused on nutrient density, added gelatin and bone broth. Her temp stabilized at 97.8.
And that's when she saw a real difference.
A profound difference, about a 40% reduction in severity. The emotional volatility was way down, the cravings were manageable.
In month 3, it all clicked into place.
By month 3, her system had reached a threshold of safety. Thyroid was working, glucose was being used efficiently, endotoxin was being cleared. Her temp stabilized between 98.2 and 98.6. The bloating was gone, the mood swings were gone, the severe cramping was reduced to just mild discomfort.
And by month 6?
She forgot her period was coming. The entire cycle was virtually symptom-free.
That is what true metabolic health feels like.
And the bonus results just prove the thesis. When you fix metabolism, everything improves. She lost 22 pounds without trying because her metabolism was optimized. Her hair thickened, her skin cleared, her libido came back. We stopped treating a hormone problem and fixed an energy problem. She got her life back.
That story is so powerful, and it brings us to our final segment, just synthesizing the long-term meaning of all this.
We have to reemphasize that PMS is not just a monthly inconvenience. It's a biological alarm that your entire metabolic system is under sustained stress.
And the implications of that chronic dysfunction, that low-energy, high-estrogen state, they go way beyond just your period.
The ripple effects are profound. The same metabolic suppression that causes PMS also fuels fertility struggles, chronic fatigue, anxiety, depression, thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions. It accelerates aging. When you fix the root cause, you improve the foundation for all of these things.
And this has implications for future generations, too, the idea of generational healing.
Absolutely. When a woman restores her metabolism, she's literally improving the metabolic blueprint she passes to her children. A metabolically healthy mother provides a low-stress, high-energy environment for fetal development.
And there's some striking research on this from Dr. Katharina Dalton.
Yes, Dr. Dalton's research showed a huge difference in cognitive development based on the mother's hormonal environment. The children of mothers with adequate progesterone levels during pregnancy had average IQ scores of 130.
Wow.
Compared to an average of 95 for children of mothers with deficient progesterone. That is a massive, life-altering difference based entirely on the metabolic safety the fetus experienced.
It fundamentally changes how we should view maternal health. Your metabolism isn't just about your cramps, it's about the potential of your children.
So let's leave you with the bottom line summary. The problem is estrogen dominance, driven by PUFAs, low thyroid, chronic stress, endotoxin from the gut, and hormonal birth control.
And the solution is that comprehensive 5-step protocol. Support your thyroid, eliminate PUFAs, fix your gut, support progesterone production, and drastically reduce your overall stress load.
And here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with, which connects to our next deep dive. What if you are meticulously following all 5 of these steps? You're eating well, sleeping, you've ditched the seed oils, but you still feel that lingering anxiety or your hands and feet are still cold.
You might think you missed a food sensitivity, but the answer could be external, hiding in plain sight.
That's right. Your light environment could be actively suppressing your thyroid and your metabolism every single day. Your exposure to artificial blue light after sunset, or the lack of bright morning sunlight. That disruption to your circadian rhythm is a massive stressor. It suppresses T3, fuels inflammation, and makes hormone balance nearly impossible, even with a perfect diet.
It's a reminder that this is all an integrated system. Metabolic health goes way beyond just the plate.
Exactly. So for your immediate action, start small today. Start tracking your morning temperature. It's your most honest metabolic marker. Immediately eliminate seed oils. And consider starting the raw carrot salad protocol to start clearing that endotoxin.
Your body wants to heal. Your hormones want to find balance. You just have to give them the right conditions.
Restoration, not restriction, is the only path forward. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the estrogen trap. We'll see you next time as we explore the profound metabolic impact of your light environment.
Until then, track that temp, ditch the seed oils, and keep diving deep.